It was a quiet afternoon at the Ding family's home, just like any other day. But around 3 p.m., someone unexpected walked through their door and everything changed. What happened next was so terrible that it shocked the entire community. Hours went by before anyone knew something was wrong. When the police finally arrived, it was too late. The few clues left behind only made people wonder what really happened inside that house. Ang Xiangdu was born in 1958 in China. Little is known about his early life or family background, but from a young age, he showed a strong interest in business and traditional Chinese medicine. He eventually specialized in this field, and it was through his work that he met his future wife. The couple later had a son, though the details of his life remain private. By 1998, Ang Xiangdu decided to expand his horizons and, along with his family, relocated to the United Kingdom in search of a better future. Shortly after their arrival, Ang Xiangdu crossed paths with the Ding family, with whom he shared not only a cultural background but also a deep passion for traditional Chinese medicine. The Ding family consisted of Ji Feng, known as Jeff, his wife Helen Cui, and their daughters Xing, known as Nancy, and Alice. The Ding family had moved from China to the UK in the early 1990s, working tirelessly to build a better life. Both Jeff and Helen were university graduates with degrees in chemistry, and their daughters were born in Northampton in 1993 and 1999, respectively. Jeff worked as an engineering professor at the University of Manchester, while Helen was a Mandarin teacher at her daughter's school and also worked as a translator. She was known as a devoted mother and a hard worker. Their daughters, Nancy and Alice, were not only exceptional students, but also talented violinists who performed with the Northamptonshire Youth Orchestra, touring on several occasions. Nancy had just received an offer to study medicine at the University of Nottingham. Ang Xiangdu's professional relationship with the Ding family began in 1999 when they, along with a man named Paul, partnered to open a traditional Chinese medicine clinic in Birmingham. The business partnership initially appeared promising, with both families working hard to grow the clinic. However, over time, financial disagreements began to arise, leading to tensions within the partnership. The situation escalated when Jeff accused Ang Xiangdu of mismanaging the clinic's funds. Although Ang Xiangdu was briefly arrested, no charges were filed against him. Following this incident, Ang Xiangdu was forced out of the business, but he didn't back down. He decided to take legal action against the Dings, initiating a lengthy and bitter legal battle over the joint ownership of the clinic. The case dragged on for nearly a decade, filled with appeals and complex legal procedures. On April 28, 2011, Ang Xiangdu lost his final appeal. The court ordered him to refrain from liquidating his assets and to pay the Ding family around $116,000 in legal fees. Furious with the outcome, Ang Xiangdu's situation worsened as he had been in the process of negotiating the sale of a property, a deal that he now had to cancel because of the court's decision. Amid these mounting pressures on April 30th, his wife contacted the police, reporting his disappearance. She explained that her husband had left a farewell note written in Mandarin, expressing his best wishes and asking their son to take care of his mother. She also expressed concern for his safety, fearing he might have gone to confront the Ding family due to the ongoing financial and legal issues. Given the tense history between Anxiang Du and the Dings, local authorities in West Midlands contacted their counterparts in Northamptonshire, asking them to check on the Ding family's home. On the morning of May 1st, officers arrived at the Ding residence, but no one answered the door and the family's car was not present. Assuming they were not home, the officers left a card in the mailbox and departed. Later that day, police were called back to the Ding home by a neighbor who reported that something seemed wrong. He had not seen the family in 2 days, which struck him as unusual. He knocked on the door several times, but there was no response. When he peered through the kitchen window, he was horrified to see what appeared to be a leg lying in a pool of blood. The officers who returned to the scene were met with a gruesome sight: the bodies of all 4 Ding family members, who had been brutally stabbed. Investigators soon realized that they had visited the same house earlier in search of Anxiang Du following his wife's report of his disappearance. They also discovered that days before the murders, there had been a call to emergency services from the Ding residence. Unfortunately, due to a miscommunication regarding the call's location, officers were sent to the wrong address. After confirming that the occupants of that property were safe, the police had closed the case, thinking it might have been a prank call. While authorities were searching the wrong location, the Ding family was in greater danger than anyone realized. As investigators scoured the crime scene, they discovered a sharp object near the kitchen sink that did not match the other utensils in the home. Believing it could be the murder weapon, they sent it for analysis. Forensic teams also found fingerprints scattered throughout the house. The 4 bodies were transported to the forensic service, where the cause of death for each was confirmed to be stab wounds. Jeff had sustained 23 injuries, Helen 13, while Nancy had 11 wounds and Alice had 4. The medical examiner determined that the time of death was between 3 and 4 p.m. on April 29th. The community was devastated by the murders, as the Ding family was well loved by all. Friends, relatives, and the wider community gathered at the local church to bid their final farewells. Among those in attendance were Jeff's colleagues and the daughter's school friends. During the ceremony, Jeff's co-workers spoke of his dedication to engineering, while Nancy and Alice's teachers and friends remembered their talents, kindness, and academic dedication. In addition to the funeral, other memorials were held. At Alice's school, daffodils were planted in her honor. A commemorative plaque and a tree were also installed to remember her. Meanwhile, as friends and family tried to cope with their loss, detectives had already launched an intense investigation. Anxiang Du quickly became the prime suspect due to his long-standing legal dispute with the Ding family. The results from the fingerprints found at the crime scene matched Anxiang Du's, confirming his involvement. Initially, based on the farewell note he left his wife, officers believed he might have taken his own life after committing the murders. However, a thorough examination of digital evidence revealed multiple sightings of Anxiang Du throughout the UK, which is heavily monitored by surveillance cameras. Unbeknownst to him, every step he took before and after the crime was captured on camera. His missteps began when he left his house on the morning of April 29th. He hadn't considered the possibility of being tracked and took no precautions. His movements were traced back to that morning around 10 a.m. when he left his home to head to the store where he practiced Chinese medicine. His wife normally accompanied him, but that day she stayed home to watch the royal wedding, which was taking place. Aung San Suu drove to the train station, bought a ticket to Birmingham, and surveillance cameras recorded every moment. He spent little time at his shop, just enough to write a farewell note to his wife and retrieve a bag containing a knife. After that, he boarded a train to Birmingham and began his grim journey, switching to a bus at Northampton Station, arriving at 12:37 p.m. From there, he boarded another bus heading to the town where the Ding family lived. He appeared perfectly calm as he asked the bus driver for directions, though the driver mistakenly gave him the wrong address, forcing Aung San Suu to walk a considerable distance to reach the Ding residence, which he finally arrived at around 3 p.m., committing the brutal murder shortly after. Despite initial searches at airports and Eurostar services yielding no results, police later determined that Aung San Suu had driven to London and abandoned his car on a residential street. By 8 a.m. on April 30th, the day after the murders, he was already on a bus bound for Paris. From there, he slipped undetected into Spain and eventually made his way to the ferry port of Algeciras. Northamptonshire police launched the largest manhunt in the region's history, deploying over 240 officers to track down the suspect. Detectives spent 5,000 hours reviewing surveillance footage across the UK. They released security camera images from the day of the crime, hoping more witnesses might come forward to identify Aung San Suu, described as an older man in his 50s, small in stature and slightly hunched. The search expanded internationally with the help of Interpol, issuing alerts in 180 countries. Leads began trickling in, but it took time to process them all. Investigators questioned over 400 people and made 9 arrests, although none turned out to be the suspect. Some of those arrested were believed to have ties to Aung San Suu, though this proved to be false. The police offered a $13,200 reward, which was later increased to $33,000 for information leading to Aung San Suu's capture. Finally, after 14 months, authorities received a tip from a construction worker in Morocco who claimed to have seen a photograph of Aung San Suu in a local newspaper and believed he had worked alongside the fugitive. The man told officers that he and his co-workers had taken pity on Aung San Suu, often bringing him food and trying to assist him however they could. Upon learning this, UK police traveled to Spain and requested Aung San Suu's capture by Moroccan authorities. Aung San Suu was arrested on July 7, 2012, in a partially constructed apartment building in Tangier, where he had been sleeping on a makeshift bed and using a small gas stove to cook. When confronted with the evidence, he couldn't deny his involvement in the murders and confessed to everything. Although there was no formal extradition agreement between the UK and Morocco, British authorities submitted an official request to the Ministry of the Interior, and Aung San Suu was eventually flown to Heathrow Airport on February 20, 2013, to face justice for his crimes. On February 21st, he appeared before Northampton Magistrates Court, where he was charged with 4 counts of murder for the Ding family killings and remanded in custody awaiting trial. The capture of Aung San Suu marked a significant achievement for British law enforcement. However, this success was somewhat overshadowed by the Independent Police Complaints Commission's report, which highlighted the error made with Alice's emergency call on the day of the murders. According to the report, if the police had used more detailed controls and an available subscriber verification system, they could have identified the Ding family's correct address, allowing the emergency to be attended to within minutes. While police admitted their mistake, Forensic experts stated it was unlikely that the family could have been saved, given the severity of their injuries. However, they acknowledged that a prompt response might have led to Aung Seong-do being apprehended at the scene, as it was confirmed he remained in the house for nearly 5 hours after the murders, even taking a nap. After several months and delays due to scheduling changes, Aung Seong-do's trial, at age 55, began on November 12, 2013, at Northampton Crown Court. While Aung Seong-do did not deny killing the family, his defense team argued that the decade-long legal battle with his former business partners had left him suffering from severe depression, which impaired his judgment. They contended that he should be charged with manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility rather than murder as the prosecution sought. The defense centered on Aung Seong-do's mental and emotional state at the time of the killings, calling a forensic psychiatrist who had previously interviewed him. According to the psychiatrist, Aung Seong-do confessed to purchasing the sharp object months before the murders, intending to use it to end his own life due to his dire financial situation and deep depression. He recounted that while at his shop, he remembered the weapon in his bag and brought it with him on the trip from Birmingham to Northampton, planning to use it to force Jeff to pay the money he believed he was owed from their legal dispute. When asked if he intended to harm the family, Aung Seong-do responded that he might have had that thought. He insisted that he hadn't planned to kill them and wouldn't have gone to their house if he had. He also mentioned that if the Dings had apologized to him, the attack wouldn't have happened. In his confession, Aung Seong-do stated that once inside the house, he asked Jeff for money, but Jeff allegedly insulted him, mocked him, and ordered him to leave or he would call the police. Aung Seong-do then claimed that he pulled out the weapon and everything went black. He described how Jeff's voice and image became distorted, harsh, and ugly as he attacked him. The forensic expert explained this as evidence of Aung Seong-do entering a heightened state of excitement. According to Aung Seong-do, while attacking Jeff, he felt a hand pulling his arm and turned to find Helen, whom he also stabbed. He stated that he didn't remember how many times. Hearing a noise upstairs, Aung Seong-do said he went to investigate and found the daughters, whom he also stabbed. When recounting the murders of the girls, he broke down, saying he didn't know why he had done it, describing the act as a great sin. Afterward, Aung Seong-do claimed he fell asleep in the house, waking up only after it had gotten dark. Seeing a wallet and car keys nearby, he decided to flee. Initially, he considered finding his other former business partner to harm him as well, but after getting lost, he chose to escape instead. For the prosecution, this was a calculated plan set into motion after Aung Seong-do's legal options had run out. Prosecutors argued that his financial ruin was the catalyst for the murders, which were acts of cold-blooded revenge. They presented evidence, including fingerprints found at the scene, the weapon that Aung Seong-do had carried from his shop, and the farewell note he left for his wife, indicating premeditation. They also presented documents outlining the legal dispute and the debt Aung Seong-do owed the Dings, providing a motive for the killings. The jury was also shown autopsy reports revealing the brutality of the attacks. During the trial, they watched surveillance footage of Aung Seong-do casually walking through the bus station, asking for directions to the Dings neighborhood and clearly carrying a backpack containing the murder weapon. They also heard Alice's heartbreaking emergency call, which lasted only 20 seconds but moved several jurors to tears. Additionally, a school friend of Alice and a neighbor testified that they had seen a strange man near the Dings house on the day of the murders. The girl had told her father, who went to investigate, but seeing the man, assumed he was a family acquaintance and told his daughter to play away from the house. Neither noticed blood on the man's clothes, but they recalled that his beige jacket was buttoned up to the neck. Days later, after the crime was discovered, the girl told her father she had heard a scream that day, but hadn't realized at the time if it was a cry for help or just someone playing. After a 2-week trial on November 27th, the jury took just over 3 hours to find Anh Siang-du guilty on all 4 counts of murder. He was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum of 40 years. During sentencing, the judge remarked that the crimes were premeditated and motivated by revenge. Addressing Anh Siang-du, the judge said that by taking Jeff's life, he had killed the man he despised. The judge also spoke to the Ding family members, especially Helen's father and brother, who had traveled from China to follow the trial. Both expressed satisfaction with the verdict, though they acknowledged they would never recover from their loss. Anh Siang-du appealed his conviction in 2014, but it was rejected on June 4th of that year. The court upheld the original life sentence, citing the heinous nature of the crimes. Today, Anh Siang-du remains imprisoned at a high-security facility, where some of the UK's most dangerous criminals are held. Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.